So far, we've looked at collections of things like arrays. What if you wanted to go through an array and you wanted to pull out each variable one by one and perform some kind of programming action on it? Well, the way to do that is to run it through a loop. And there are several kinds of loops, each with different syntax, that differ very slightly from each other, or in fact, some of them are actually the same as far as we will be using them. So let's discover what these loops look like by opening up a playground and following along. Let's say we want to create a loop that goes around 10 times. For that, we would actually use that word I just said, which is for. We would say for variable I, and this I could be named anything, it doesn't have to be I. In, and we want to go from a count of 0 to 10. So what this is going to do, it's going to go round this loop 10 times. And each time it goes round, it is going to add 1 to I. So let's print I. Let's see what comes out there. Well, it says 10 times. If we inspect it, it says 9, and that is the current value of I. And if you recall our arrays, we always start counting everything from 0, generally speaking in programming. So I is 0, it goes round, I is 1, I is 2, until we get I is less than 10. Not equal to, but less. And what's less than 10 in integer world? That's number 9. So that's our very first basic loop. Now, I just want to show you something because I'm going to help you avoid wasting a lot of time here. If you go searching for loops on the web and you see something like var I is equal to 0, semicolon, I is less than 10, I plus plus. Functionally, this is the same. However, in Swift 4, this has now been removed, this syntax. So error, C-style statement has been removed in Swift 3. I didn't know it was gone in 3. Could have sworn they said it was going to be 4. Anyway, that will not work in Swift 4. So when you find your posts with a bit of code you need to use that in place of that, and you'll save hours of frustration. Right, let's look at how we use loops in arrays. So let's create a var numbers, which we will actually specify as an integer array, and this will be equal to whatever numbers you feel like putting into it. So we've got 5 elements in that array. In order to loop through that, all we have to do is say for var n, and that n could be called anything, of course, in numbers, and then we want to print out n. So what's this doing? Well, it's grabbing this array, and automatically it knows you want to loop through it. So it grabs the first one, the first time round, it loops through, grabs the second one, third one, fourth one, and fifth one. And it just saves you from having to type the longhand way of the for var I in 0 to 10. Okay, so that's a simple way of getting all the elements and doing something. And you can imagine you would do a different kind of processing here, and this would make it very simple and very compact to program in order to loop through an array. And the major advantage here, right, this is important. The major advantage, you don't need to know how long this array is, how many elements it has. Remember back to an earlier lesson, we tried to access an element in the array that actually wasn't there, and we got an error. If you do that in your apps, they will crash, and it will be a bad user experience. You'll get a 1-star review, and they're not great. I know from experience. So the beauty of a for loop is you don't need to know in advance the size of the array. The for loop will stop at the end without falling off the cliff. Right, the next kind of loop we have is the while loop. So this is a bit more tricky. Let's create a var count variable, which will be an integer, and that will be equal to 0. Okay, now, while that count is less than 10, we are going to keep executing this loop. We'll call it print not yet. Now, if you've programmed before, you know what mistake I've just made here. Look how it keeps counting up and up and up. It's just going round and round that loop. Because count is always 0. And I've said, as long as it's less than 10, keep doing this. And this is called being stuck in an infinite loop. And again, it will cause iOS to kill your program for you, or at the very best, your program will be non-responsive and sluggish. So the way to get out of this is to add 1 to I each time we go around. So after we printed that, let's have I plus equals 1. And let's see what happens. We have a slight error. So what I'm going to do is just cut this because I think it's actually crashed like I promised it would. And then I'm just going to paste it again once Xcode is caught up with itself. It keeps trying to print out not yet at the bottom, as you can see. Oh wow, this is going crazy. Well, it's a good demonstration, isn't it, of what can actually go wrong with these things. I'll tell you what, I'll just switch off the video now and let this run, and I'll let you know in a minute how long it took. So that took much longer, and I had to force quit Xcode because it wasn't responding. So you've seen the danger. I'm going to paste this back in, and now that we're adding I each time, whoops, not I, that's silly, isn't it? It's count plus equals 1. I'm still stuck in the for loop, if you like. And that should go round 10 times once it has finished thinking about it. So if I just drag my little window at the bottom up, we should see not yet printed out roughly, or exactly, 10 times. And there we have it. Right, so that's all good. Now, another warning, you might see some other shorthand for adding. And this is plus plus. And this is wrong because it has been removed from Swift. So again, that's another thing that could actually get you out. Let's put that back to plus equals 1. Make sure it's there so I don't get a crash again. Okay, so that's the while. Now there's a slight variation on while called repeat while. And they don't sound too different, and functionally they're not, but when you come to programming, you'll understand the nuances between them. So let's just try that. Let's have a repeat. So we're going to tell it to repeat something called print not yet count plus equals 1. So it's going to repeat something, but it tells us I expect a while after the repeat statement because we haven't given it a condition to stop running yet. So we're going to repeat that while the count is less than 10. And you can see this will go round 10 times and then stop. And there we have it. Now, it's not obvious how different this is to the previous one. In fact, it seems like more code for no good reason. But later on, we'll discover there are some fairly good reasons for doing this. Okay, that's the end of loops. Congratulations! You made it to the end of this video, which puts you in the top 10% of my viewers. For each one of you, there are 9 others who didn't make it this far. That perseverance you've shown means that you're much more likely to succeed as a developer. Now, to help you on your way, I want to give you the next part of my iOS course completely free. No trials, no credit cards, instant access. Simply click the link below the video to ensure that you don't miss out.